The Morristown Green, a central park echoing with the footfalls of Washington and his compatriots during the Revolutionary War, is not merely a serene escape, but a living testament to the town's pivotal role in shaping our nation. Morristown's history seamlessly intertwines with every individual who grew up there, creating a childhood rich in the echoes of the past and a vibrant spirit of community carried forward by each successive generation. These are their stories. This is Beyond the Green.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Green, where we talk about the people and places of Morristown. I am Peter, Morristown High School class of 1990, and you are?
And I am Satirier Terry, Morristown High School class of 1987.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. Just want to give a little shout out to Kelly Christmas, who episode started a little slow, but it's now picking up. Coincidentally, Kelly texted me about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours. She wanted to know if we were Dead fans, and of course I said sure. And I go, "What's going on?" And she's like, "On the way to Vegas to go see, I guess there's a Dead tribute band that's playing at the Sphere for the next week."
Wow.
So have a great time, Kelly. I asked her how her trip to Japan was. She said she loved it. People were
Nice.
very nice. She was surprised how clean Japan was. And she pondered with me whether or not the Japanese get upset when they come here because our streets are not as clean as they are there. I said, probably not. They're just happy to be in America as they are keeping up with the Kardashians. So, no, I didn't tell her that part. But no, I told her it's probably because they're just happy to be in America. I think Japanese are very savvy when they travel, so they know what to expect when they travel abroad.
Yeah, no
So
doubt.
again, Kelly, have a great time in Vegas. We'll talk to you when you get back. Now, uh, just want to remind everybody that again, July 19th will be our last episode here on the Green for season 1. And just remind everybody where you can pay us back, thank us, is follow us, comment on our posts, and like our episodes. And any of you who watch the show and want to be on the show, whether or not you went to Morristown High School, whether you have a business, let us know. We'll be more than happy to put you on for season 2. So this week's episode, it's we released a press release on Wednesday, June 5th, that we are now in collaboration with the Morristown Colonial Nation, which is also part of the Morris Educational Foundation. In this episode, we will be sitting down with Debbie, who is part of the class of 1989, and Jian, who graduated in 2016. And we kind of drill down a little bit, not only on their high school career, but also about Morristown Colonial Nations, who they are, what they do, as well as the Morris Educational Foundation. So it's a really great episode. It's about an hour long. Again, feel free to comment on it. Moving forward, we do have some projects lined up with them. Actually, next week I'll be airing a program where I went back to the high school. And we have 3 interviews with the class of 2024. So that was a fun time. So that's it, folks. So sit back, enjoy. Whether you're listening on wherever you pick up your favorite podcast or you're watching on YouTube, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Enjoy, and we'll see you guys soon. Debbie and Jian, welcome to the show.
Hey guys.
Hi, everyone.
How are you?
So just to introduce everybody, Debbie, you are Morristown High School class of 1989,
You got it.
and Jian, you are Morristown class of 2016,
Yep, that's right.
and you're
That's
making
awesome.
everybody else on the screen feel old. As
Aging's
we,
a privilege.
well, we all, the privileges that we're all AARP members now.
Uh,
So, you
Speak for
know,
yourself. Speak for yourself.
very good, Deb. Very good. So Deb, let's start with you. You were a class of 1989.
Yes.
In high school, what was your maiden name in high school? Last name?
Rhines.
Rhines. Okay. And where in Morristown did you grow up?
I grew up on the Convent Station side of Morristown, over
Okay.
by down by Ginty Pool,
Sure.
off Woodland Avenue. Yeah.
Okay. So what was your elementary school like? Where'd you go?
So I went to Woodland
Okay.
and then to Thomas Jefferson
Right.
and then on to Frelinghuysen and then of
Yep.
course the high school.
Yep. Perfect. And Gian, what about you? Where'd you grow up?
yeah, I grew up by Alfred Vale, so on the other
Okay.
side off of
Yep.
Speedwell.
Yep.
And I went to Normandy Park, then Frelinghuysen, then the high school.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. And I still can't get over class of 2016. I'm just like, I'm just saying that. So Deb, back to you.
Yes.
You fenced in high school, correct?
I did. Yep.
And other than fencing, we'll loop back. Did you do anything else other than fencing?
Yes, I was actually in the marching band. I was the drum major and I did band.
Really?
Yes, and then I also was the first host of Colonial Corner, which is the
The TV show.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
Look
yeah,
at you.
We have
yeah,
a celebrity.
that's right.
Wow.
I'm really-
What year was
Oh my
that? What year was that?
Well, I was in high school, so I graduated 89. So I think we started the show my junior year.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
88 then,
yeah,
probably around there.
in that window. Yes.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it was really cool. I got my FCC radio license
Yeah.
in
Wow.
high school. I mean, that was
Yeah.
just so awesome. One of the
Yeah.
great secrets of Morristown High.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I did I
And
did
let's go.
I did radio in college, and I wish I did JSV. I forgot who it was that had a couple of shows that I was a guest on. I was
That's great.
Barbonas from Barbados. Don't ask me what the whole idea was, but I always
Yeah.
thought the radio after high school, I always thought I should have done more. It was cool that we had that, those facilities. But
And they've grown so much
Yeah.
since
yeah,
the time when we were there. It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about fencing.
Okay.
So how did that come about?
Well, so I'm the youngest in my family. I have two older brothers and both my brothers fenced.
Okay.
So it was kind of like one of those things that I had just always seen them. I had always gone to
Mhm.
all of their meets and been part of it. So when I got to the high school, um, I wasn't like a super, super athletic. So I
Right.
wanted to try something new and different. And
Sure.
it was cool that fencing was there and I always loved it. And we did well. Our team, we had a great coach, Bob Largman, who actually went
Mhm.
on to coach the Olympic fencing
Right.
team. And we did really well. I think we were like third in the states that year.
Yeah.
We like, second in districts. I had a great team, great friends. So I
Yeah.
really loved it, and it was nice to do something that my family had done, and
Yeah.
it's cool.
Yeah, I remember because I was the class after you. I knew from my class, Christine Collins was on the
Yeah,
team, on the women's team,
that's
and I think
right.
I think she went to I think she went on to Penn State after that, and I think Niels Larson, who was on the men's
Yeah,
team, I think he went to UNC. I think he actually fenced in UNC as well.
I think you're
But
right.
don't quote me on that. I know because I know this is gonna come back and haunt me down the road. Um,
so
John, what about you? Any athletics for you?
Yeah, I was really involved. I loved playing basketball. That was my
Okay.
main sport in high school. And I did that with Coach Pisciotto, who just recently
Mm-hmm.
retired. They had a great run this past season. I know they made it to states. They played at Rutgers. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a really big part of my high school experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you guys think in retrospect, like, um, you look at the programs, like Deb, you look at the programs how it was in the early 80s, um, and what you see now, do you see a big difference? Do you think sports has taken It was pretty. I wouldn't say it was huge at time. It was big, but do you think it's taking up a larger piece of the identity of the school?
I don't think so. I mean, my perception is that there's just so many things
Mm-hmm.
at Morristown High, such a diverse offerings
Mm-hmm.
for I think a lot of students could kind of it was, kind of find their thing that they felt that they connected with their friends, or they made their
Sure.
friends, or that was what they were excited about. So today I think this high school sports is still a, important part of the Morristown high school experience and the whole colonial experience. And there's a lot of real pride in athletics,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of learnings that happen on the field that are not just about the sport. And I think it's really
Sure.
cool that there are no cut sports. So there's, opportunities for all, kids to participate. But I don't think when I walk through the high school, I see a lot. I see arts, music, theater,
Mm-hmm.
broadcasting. I really do see it all
Right.
still the same way as I felt when I was there as a
Yeah.
student.
I think we were very fortunate that in retrospect when we look back um and how diverse we were at the time. I think we were a little bit you guys say I think a little more on the cutting edge when you look at things 35, 40 years ago on how they were and what we had. It was a big deal that we had a swimming pool,
Yeah.
and people would be like you tell people like you thought every school had a swimming pool, but you go to college and then you tell people we had a swimming pool. Like, what do you mean you had a swimming pool? Like we had like like an indoor like swimming pool, and people would look at you funny. So I think when you think back like that, how diverse we were, not only in just the population of the school of the kids going there, but also the diversity of what we were given the opportunities. They were offering Japanese, at the time, and all these different things, and it was unheard of at the time. But Gian, as we come to you we progressed to almost from the time that Deb graduated, you're talking 20, almost 20 years. No, it's even more than that. It's almost 30 years since she graduated. When you graduated, do you still feel like you hear us talking about how diverse it was? Do you still get that same vibe, like when you think back to your high school years?
Oh, 100%. I think it was in the last few years, having spoken with Mr. Norton in the guidance office, that I think
Mm-hmm.
we've passed the like minority majority. I could be wrong, Debbie. Feel
Mm-hmm.
free to check me on that. But I remember during my graduation speech, I even asked the guidance office to give me some statistics on the diversity of the school. And at the time,
Okay.
they had like 16 different languages represented in our class in
Mm-hmm.
2016, and that's just so neat. I mean, you see it, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's in the air at Morristown High School, and that's our strength
Right.
for sure.
I love that. I love that you have stats. Out of curiosity, any others that are interesting along those lines? Because we talk,
Not that it comes to mind
Well,
now.
that's fine. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to put pressure on you. I'm just curious because to what Peter said earlier. I mean, we talk about it. I've always liked class size because how many people have we all met like in the Midwest that are like my graduating class was 120 people, and I'm like, that was my gym class.
yeah.
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 And so just size, you never think
Yeah.
about it growing up, but then when you compare, you go, oh my God, that was
Yeah.
small. And so anyway, so I love to see, because this is the first time we've had graduates from different
Hmm.
from that span of time, and so
Yeah.
it's a first
Yeah.
opportunity. Congratulations, it's a first for the show for us
Yeah.
to be
Thanks.
able to compare and contrast. So I love,
Yeah.
Jana, that
I mean,
that you actually got
this
that.
is actually a generational shift
Yeah,
when you think
exactly. Yeah.
about it. You know what I mean?
Well, I just
Um,
a little point there. I have a son that graduated with Jian
Oh, that's awesome.
in the class of 2016. So how about that for a moment? Talk about
Uh,
ah,
That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
you know what? I'm just gonna hold my comments on that.
Okay.
Let's just move along here.
Okay, fun.
But but in a way that's kind of cool because you can relate
Yeah.
with her on a different level altogether than that's great. Um, so as we move forward here, then I'm just gonna ask this, and by no means am I trying to creates any type of waves here, but when you look at when we were going to school, you look at the state statistics and the grades that educational systems were getting throughout the state. New Jersey or Morristown was always highly ranked, top 25, top 30 throughout the state when you look at it. That's no longer the case. And my question is for you guys, why not? What's different? Why are schools, other public schools, like the town that I live in now, is ranked in the top 15? Now, when I look at it, see their offerings, it's no different than Morristown. It has a strong sports program. It has a good educational system. The SATs are pretty much consistent when you. But why is it that the educational system in Morristown is not as highly ranked as it was years ago? And again, I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers, but I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get a little more insight on this and why that is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like, I'm not an expert in the stats or what the uh
Hmm.
what they use to look at that. But one thing I do know is I think you have to be educated in what those ranking organizations are using as what they look at, because one thing, for example, could be graduation rates. And when you measure graduation rates in a school district, you might not be
Right.
accounting for that. We have a lot of a lot of our students are coming to the high
Hmm.
school as sophomores, and so the rates, or they leave, or it's a little more transient, some of the students that
Okay.
come through our schools, and so it could knock our graduation rate down, but that's no reflection on the quality of the education
Okay.
or the overall experience. It's just we have a very diverse population. We have families with
Hmm.
all different kinds of needs. And
Okay.
and that's the thing that always drives me crazy when I see these rankings, because Morristown, and I think there's a little bit why some of us as graduates have a little kind of grit around it, because we know
Hmm.
how amazing the school district is. We
Hmm.
have seen, like, I often laugh sometimes when I see how many kids from Morristown High are going on into elite schools or going on into elite things
Hmm.
post graduation. Almost sometimes, I remember one year there were like 11 students out of Morristown in recent years going to the Ivy Leagues, which was more than any of the neighboring school districts that might
Right.
be higher ranked, but they don't have the
Yeah.
diversity that we do.
Right. Right.
So you have to really look.
Yeah.
I always want to educate. You have to look at how those rankings
Hmm.
are coming in and what they're using as criteria.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
agree with you there. Go
I
ahead.
think there's also another dynamic, Debbie, and I always say this when it comes to uh, comparing pizza, right? When you live when you live in New Jersey and New York, right? Everybody's got their favorite place, and you can
Yeah.
argue until the cows come home, which we do. But as soon as you leave that area, any one of those places is better than anything. And I speak as somebody who lives in Arizona now and fights with people all the time who want to tell me that their pizza is the best, right? I think, and again, I not to piss anybody off who lives in Arizona who's going to tell me about the best school system here, but I know because I live in a part of Tucson that has the best high school.
Hmm.
And I know what the people I've spoken to and so forth. If I brought somebody in that was educated in the way we were, high school and even grade school, you couldn't hold a candle to what they
Hmm.
have here. And I don't mean that as a shot of any other place. I'm not saying there aren't good schools anywhere else. But I think within that place, we could say Madison is first, or Randolph, or then Norwood and so forth. But the reality of it is we're fortunate to have not only lived in Morristown, but lived in an area where just education
Yeah.
has for a long time ranked. And I think it's a good problem to have. But to your point, college, it's the same thing, right? You always see the
Hmm.
college scores, and it's like, do you see Drew or Fairleigh necessarily show up? Although I think Fairleigh showed up at some point where you go, "Ooh, that's one that you don't often see."
Yeah.
But does it mean that if you go there somehow you are, SOL? Probably not, because again, you're still within that environment. That's what I always think about when I see those rankings. Yeah, you want to see it yourself rank higher, but
Hmm.
I would never. I've always said I don't have kids. If I have kids and I left the Northeast because you get tired of the weather, up until college, and maybe even for college, I would have stayed in New Jersey and done the education, everything else. And then maybe if they want to go to college somewhere else, they can, even though I
Hmm.
think, Rutgers and so forth are pretty damn good schools.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's kind of yeah.
yeah, I got to comment on that, because first of all, I'm a alum who moved back to Morristown to raise my kids in the school district in which I'm a product of for
Wow.
you have choices on where you live, and we wanted to be back in Morristown, and also, and I know we're going to talk about this, I'm sure, later when we talk about some of the other stuff with like some of the stuff we're doing with alumni, but
Yeah.
there are so many alumni who are parents now in the Morris School District, which I think says so much about their
Very cool.
confidence in the quality of
Mm-hmm.
education. And one like anecdotal story in some of my work through this, volunteer stuff I do with the Ed Foundation, I had an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to interview a lot of like some of our really successful alumni. And that's why I was so drawn to your podcast too. Like it's just so
Mm-hmm.
cool what you're doing. And I'll never forget one of our alums who went on to like, you know, Princeton and Harvard Business School and had an amazing career. I was interviewing him one day and he said to me, I said, tell me, like, how did you feel? Did you feel that Morristown prepared you well for this amazing success you had? And he said, Deb, I'm going to tell you something. When I got into college, he said, I felt just as academically prepared as all of my peers around the table at Princeton. He said, but what I had over all of them was an understanding about how to work with people who were diverse and different than I was. And that gave me a
100%.
leg up. And
That's
I was like,
awesome.
that's the Morristown
Yeah.
High. That's why we're all like so connected. It's like,
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
that's
And
awesome.
yeah,
that was special. Like I'm not gonna tell you what school district I live in, but let me tell you,
okay.
diversity. Let me tell you, there is very little diversity. Okay, you're either Caucasian or you're Korean. I'm not even gonna say Asian. Koreans. Now there's fine. That's fine. It works, but you're not diverse. It's not. You know what I'm saying? And we had all walks of life, like all walks of life, and it melded so well. And you're right. When people talk about diversity now, you got to kind of laugh. What exactly do they mean by diversity? We
Yeah.
walked it, we breathed it, we experienced it. You know what I mean? And the funny thing is, again, I don't want to dive too much into this, but we didn't judge anybody on their background. We treated everybody the same. There was none of that, oh, so and so this or so and so that, the only reason somebody was fighting with somebody because somebody stole somebody's boyfriend or girlfriend, and that was pretty much it. But you get that no matter where you go, so that doesn't matter. But yeah, we are grateful. And everybody we've talked to on the podcast, if you go through all of the other
Mhm.
Episode.
episodes that have been watched them, it is the reoccurring theme in it, and how lucky and fortunate they were that they were able to live in this type of diverse environment, which was really, really good. And what else we can speak to is diversity of the teachers we had as well. And that brings everything together. So, but we spent a lot of time on that. I didn't know my brother was the Dave Partnoy of education, though.
Well,
So
that's what
yeah,
well, you get
he's
a
like
7, you
El
get a 7 plus
Presidente of
El
education
President.
over there.
Exactly.
But
That's
but
right.
anyways,
The only thing is, instead of one bite, it's one class. I take one
yeah,
class and then I rank you from there.
yeah, yeah. Um, so let's try to transition now. So Deb and John, why don't we now transition into talking about Morristown Colonial Nation and what you guys do there? And for those who don't know what it is, why don't you just kind of give a quick synopsis on what it's all about? Go ahead, Gianna.
Go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, well, Debbie, feel free to jump right in. Well, Morristown Colonial Nation, it is a community of not just alum, but also those that support the Morris School District. So
Mm-hmm.
business owners, community members, but by and large, it just those that really embody that Morristown school spirit, right? And it came out of the Morris Educational Foundation. So it's within the umbrella of the Morris Educational Foundation, but it's its
Mm-hmm.
own entity. And we've put on some really robust programming to, again, really celebrate Morristown grads and to talk about all the great things that the Morris School District's doing. And so, Debbie, feel free to jump in here. We've done everything from like a class reunion or what would you call that, Debbie?
We
Abs-
did. We did an all class reunion. I had like 400 people on Zoom during COVID. It was like so
Wow.
cool. Um, we've done a lot of different things, right? Like Gian said, we've done trivia nights. We've, supported some of the reunions. Gian works with the Heritage Club at the high school. We put all the yearbooks digitally online now, so anyone can access their yearbook through the
Mm-hmm.
through the nation. But what happened is like we were constantly being approached by alumni, like, I want to give back, or I want to like help students, or hey, I had a great experience, or I had great success, and I'd love to talk to students. And it just like it kept we kept hearing that. So we thought, why don't we start to like form this nation of this energy, because it's such a positive energy, and try and see how we can harness it to not only connect our alumni back to the schools and like have a sense that they know what's going on every day and they can feel proud of today's students, but also find ways that they can maybe give back. And so like we've had some cool things. We've had alumni, like we used to call it camp nights, alumni mentoring program, Colonial Alumni Mentor. We had like all these alumni come back. Like Jill, actually, you had a couple of the speakers that you've had actually were guests at alumni night, and these alumni came back and they just spoke to kids. We've had it's been really cool. There's so much more to do, but we just felt like there was a great need, and we wanted to put the nation together to kind of connect people.
Excellent.
So if I can ask, so here again, in terms of being Morristown being trendsetters, for lack of a better term, typically when I've talked to people about alumni associations like this, it's at a college level. I had a friend of mine that went to Notre Dame. They have the Subway alumni, huge. I have a friend of mine who's part of the trustees with UC Berkeley, huge. How does what you guys are doing with Colonial Nation, is this something typical that high schools have done, or is there some uniqueness? You know what I mean? Because you typically I don't talk to people about high school and they go, I belong to my alumni association, right? So I'm just trying to tease out again another thing that's like, this is why this is awesome. Where do we sit in terms of that?
Yeah, you don't see it a lot, I don't think, in high schools, because colleges are so good at this, right? They understand the day you graduate college, welcome to the Alumni Association of whatever your institution is. And by the way, $25 please, because that's what you're going to give us when you're 22, but when you're 50, you'll give us 25,000. Like they're artful.
That's right.
And high schools, I think, I would say, from just my experience of working in different, like seeing different education groups across the country, it's a mix. There are some high schools that have stronger alumni associations than others. And there are some, there are private schools that also, have alumni networks, because they understand that alumni eventually, if they're connected and stay connected, will give back, because look how we all feel on this call. You can harness that to really give back and make the school that, better, and pay it forward in a way. I think for us at the Morris Educational Foundation, there has been an alumni association, other alumni efforts at Morristown. And we just felt like there was just a huge opportunity for engagement, and not just a responsive, or like, hey, we have a reunion coming in and we want to give a tour. Okay, we'll open the doors and someone will tour you. We wanted to try to foster a community of engagement, and really harnessing exactly what you both saw when you founded the podcast, was like, there's something special here, and how do we kind of leverage it? And I think that's what we trying to do with Morristown Colonial Nation. And we've had some amazing things. We've had alumni give us millions of dollars to establish scholarships for kids and give back. I mean, it's incredible. So I think it's just that energy we're trying to capture. And so instead of calling it like a traditional alumni association, it's a nation, Colonial Nation,
Excellent.
Yeah. And I'll just add that there's something about this attitude with Morristown. And I say that endearingly, right? Like, Motown better than Yo-Town, do the Motown Rumble. There's just this energy to what Debbie's saying. And, I mentioned basketball is one of the things that I was really involved in. And I remember Coach Bisciotto always telling us, don't ever forget where you came from. Don't ever forget where you came from. And I think Morristown grads really embody that. And I want to build off of the energy Debbie was saying. So our last event was this trivia night at Glenbrook Brewery. It was a great event. This time last year, we had over 150 people register. And I just pulled up the class years who were in attendance. So the earliest class year we had there was 1965.
Wow.
And then the most recent grad year was 2021. So we're talking a 56-year representation across just one night. And so I think that's a real testament to just, again, that Morristown spirit, and that folks want to come together, right? Folks really want to reminisce.
I would love to capture some. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I would love given how diverse that crowd was, to hear some of the conversations. You guys had a pizza place to go to? Yeah, we didn't have that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can we talk about the love of the town, the love of the school. We see it every week when we do the show because, the premise of the show when we started was because we saw what people were saying. We kind of were seeing it, that there was a thirst to kind of give back, we've been tapping into that. But the funny thing is this program feeds itself. We
Yeah.
don't go out necessarily to find people. We do, those that we really want to get. However, it's been feeding itself
Yeah.
because people are seeing what we're doing. People like to reminisce. People like to go back. People like to tell their stories, and you don't see that of people when you grow up somewhere where it sucked. Sometimes a lot of people move away because they don't want to reminisce about when something sucked. You know what I mean? They kind of come to us and say, hey, we want to tell our story. We want to share the story. And like you said, Deb, you have now alumni who have come back to raise their kids again. And there's, and it speaks to that. And, we say over and over again when we do this program, everybody has the common thread that runs through everybody is growing up in Morristown. So no matter, no matter where you went to college, what you're doing 30 years after the fact, we all have that thread there, and we can all come back to it because for the most part, everybody's Morristown story is a great story. And even though there's similarities, there's also differences. And I think that's the one thing that we try to put out there with this program is to talk about the similarities, but also talk about the differences. So were you going to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, just one more question for you, Jian. Do you, we talk about outside of high school and everything else, you hear all the time about differences between boomers, Gen X, millennials, alpha, and so forth. Now there's micro generations and things like that. Do you find that this dynamic that we talk about in Morristown High School with the work that you guys do, the vibe transcends even generations better than some other things? Do you know what I mean? There's always seems to be this comparison, especially if you're Gen X. You see this all the time on Instagram or whatever. Somebody goes, hey, how come nobody has pulled Gen X into this? It's like, hey, leave us out of it, right? And then there's always the work habits, the think habits, everything else of millennials and so forth. It seems from what both of you are expressing that, to me, the additional cool thing about it is that this vibe and this feeling, whether you're 26 or you're 55, it's basically the same feeling. And the need to connect to the hive, right? This is kind of like come back to the hive one way or the other. Am I reading that correctly? Is that same vibe?
I definitely think you're right on there. Yeah.
That's
again even more awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it has something to do with the sauce that they use in the pizza at Suvio's. That really brings everybody together. I think
You're onto something.
That's the magic sauce right there. So with all this being said, I think this would be a great opportunity to talk about the collaboration that our two groups will be doing moving forward. So this is an exclusive, everybody. So, Morristown Colonial Nation will be joining forces with Beyond the Green podcast to kind of put together our resources to bring a better experience to the alumni.
Yeah.
Whether you graduate in 1970 or you're going to graduate in 2023, there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody out there. Whether that we sponsor programs together, we kind of touch base as potentially doing some town halls and, touching base with some of the future graduates of 2024 and sitting down with them and getting their thoughts on how the last 4 years went for them. Remember, this is a group that as freshmen, they had to deal with COVID and here they are now, 2024, about to go, either enter the workforce or continue their education. How did that work out for them? I think that would be, like I said to you, Deb, earlier. I think that would make an excellent story. Even on not only just to kind of just document it for the ages to be. There's some lessons to be learned there on the educational front, on how we deal with pandemics moving forward.
And in that vein, sorry, Deb, I hope I didn't
No, you're good. You're
interrupt you.
good. It's
I was going to
great.
say, from that vein, I'm curious, outside of the collaboration and so forth, are there some things that you guys can share in terms of the future that kind of you guys see from what you've already done, and where you'd like to go, some lofty goals, some things you're already working on to make this even more of the awesomeness that it is as a nation?
Yeah, I love that question. And Gianna, please color in here with me. I mean, I love the potential collaboration, and I love the things you're thinking about, because it's an opportunity for us to connect people and generations, so the current,
Mm-hmm.
and candidly, like, if we do that work with the graduating classes, they will be more connected to these entities like Beyond the Green, or the Morristown Education, the Morristown
Mm-hmm.
Colonial Nation, or the Morris Educational Foundation, organizations that are out there that actually want them to stay connected. And the power of that is what will feed and strengthen the current school district, because we all want to come back into a school system and be like, that is just as awesome as it was when I was there. Or you have that sense of pride, or you come in and you see, oh my gosh, they put in a new wing. Wait, what? I don't know if you've been at the high school recently, but have you seen like the new like wood shop area? I mean, it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
They finished that expansion. So I want to get back to your question, Terry, but like,
That's all
so
good.
I know I'm like all over the place,
Yeah.
but I get excited
Good.
because it's like there's so
Yeah.
much to be proud of. So I think for us, our lofty goal, or we want to try to get, is participation and engagement. I think if people feel this is a resource and a place to go to learn more, to give back, to help coordinate activities like, tours of the high, whatever they want related to the reunions or their own connections, we want to establish Morristown Colonial Nation as the leading resource. The Morris
Mm-hmm.
Educational Foundation is the leading fundraising partner of the public schools. So if you want to give back to the Morris School District, or you want to give money into the schools, or donate a scholarship, or support
Mm-hmm.
arts programs, you do that through the Ed Foundation. But if you want to
Okay.
connect as alumni and have resources and see the yearbooks and have reunions and do cool events, we want you to feel like you know who to go to. And that would be
Mm-hmm.
the nation. Right, Gian? I mean, what would you say? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think students now are really thoughtful, and they have a lot to give. They want to learn from others. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think sitting down with them and understanding their story is important. And then connecting with the folks that you guys have already had conversations with, right? Like there's this whole cohort of alum that want to give back their time and their resources, but may not know necessarily how. So we want to be
Mm-hmm.
able to facilitate those connections. I mean, Debbie brought up those camp nights where those are networking opportunities for students, but
Mm-hmm.
we see it going beyond that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
mentorship opportunities, or just an opportunity to have a network of alum to say, hey, this student is interested in going
Mm-hmm.
into finance or medicine or what have you, and being able to facilitate those conversations. Like our
Sure.
alumni base is already strong. What, Debbie, we're
Yeah.
like 5,000 plus strong of members in the nation, but we obviously know there's well more than that, right? And so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
being able to garner more participation and really connect between generations, like you've said,
Yeah.
I think the sky would be the limit there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
two things we did with the nation, just like I was thinking out loud to your point, Jan, is we had we took the kids in the health services, healthcare club,
Mm-hmm.
health sciences club at the high school, and we took them and they visited 3 alumni out in the community who are in those fields, and they spent
Okay.
time with them. We took some of the kids who were in the like the mechanical and the science and the STEM programs, and we took them out
Mm-hmm.
to Longo Electric. Now Longo's also an alum of Morristown High, and they were
Sure.
fabulous, and they toured them through their plant. So like, how do we get, alumni connected to
Mm-hmm.
students and vice versa?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
like I
think,
said, beyond that, like Colonial Nation, the Ed Foundation, it goes beyond just alum. It's also community members, business partners. So Debbie, feel free. I know that we just had
Mm-hmm.
like a Valley National Bank tour where the idea was in the future, we'll also have students, having a day towards students and talking about careers in banking. And so again, like these are the sorts of things we're just throwing up and seeing what sticks.
Sure.
But these
Sure.
students really, they would really value these opportunities.
Yeah. I talk a lot with the older graduates, the classes of the early 70s, late 60s. And I love them. I love them because they can tell you stories that, listen, a lot of them are passing away now. So their stories are dying with them. And that's why one of the things we try to do is document their stories. I would love there to be an opportunity that we were able to bring in one or two of these older graduates in to talk to the younger kids, because there are more correlations there than you would think there are. You're generational apart, but your day to day growing up, it was a different time, different place, but the similarities are are incredible, incredible. And I had one individual, I'm not gonna mention his name now, but he came to me and said, growing up in the late 60s, Morristown was a tough place. You kind of had these pseudo gangs hang around. He goes, one would hang out in front of where was Bloom
hamburgers.
Bambergers, and the other one would hang out where Epstein's were. And we had like the greasers and all that. And you wouldn't cross the street because you'd get your butt kicked. And he was telling us stories that there was bullying, and we were talking about this, and he goes, I would love to do an episode talking about bullying in high school. I said, that's kind of a tough subject. I mean, I'm going to toss the idea around. But he then comes back to me and says, I talked to some of my friends that I went to school with who were bullied as well, and they don't want to talk about it because they had such PTSD from it. They don't want to talk about something that happened 50 years ago. And I reminded him, bullying in the late 60s is not like bullying today. I said, I would have never, in an age of social media, you think you go home and it's your safe haven, where someone has attacked you online 24/7. That's kind of crappy. Again, I don't want to turn this into a negative vibe, but just some of the things that these guys are talking about, but they want to give back to the community nonetheless in some, whether it's like they want to talk about their professional careers and how they went about X, Y, and Z, and how they got these jobs and this, they want to give back. So if we can find some sort of avenue to incorporate them within this, I think it'll be beneficial for both parties.
I totally agree. And the other thing I want to mention is there's a big story about how why Morristown High School is as special as it is. I mean, everybody knows the history of it being a forced merger.
Mm-hmm.
And that has really created this amazing story about what
Right.
Morristown High School is. And what I fear sometimes, because we just celebrated the 50th anniversary of that merger,
Mm-hmm.
is that will get lost, and our current students won't, the families of today won't remember or know that we're really
Right.
special,
Right.
and the uniqueness that our high school is, and what it's all about, what it stands for, is really something that we should pass that story on to current students. I'd love to have
Right.
students, alumni sharing, like, this is what it was like when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of learning there.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Yeah.
give a little bit of backstory on that, Deb? Like what the merger was like? Just a little bit more color.
Yeah. Do you all know what Terry
Yeah,
and Peter?
we know
the story?
we know the story. We covered it. We covered
Yeah.
it with Bob Ginter. He went into it, and
Okay.
he's one individual who still lives in town, who not only knows the history of growing up, but he knows the history of the town backwards and forward. There's one episode, I think it's episode 2, and then I think episode 6. If you watch that, what this man knows, he comes up. I went and visited him real quick. I went and visited. I said, Bob, I'm going to stop by. See, he lives on Mill Street. Okay. so he brought me into his home, and he has all these old maps, and he's telling me, he goes, "Do you know about the Prohibition tunnels?" I said, "What Prohibition tunnels?" He goes, "Morristown, there's Prohibition tunnels." So he pulls out this map and he shows me that from, do you guys know where the seniors, what do you call it again?
Bleachers.
Senior
The
stairs.
Not the senior stairs,
The bleachers on the field.
the senior bleachers, that creek that runs behind it. So it
Mhm.
comes off from Alexander Hamilton, comes from Burnham Park. So right where, back in our day, Deb,
Yeah.
they used to have it blocked off. They used to play like outdoor, like hockey out there, you
Yeah.
know. So
Mhm.
back there, there's the creek. So there's an underground tunnel that runs all the way to Speedwell, down underneath headquarters to MLK. So there used to be a speakeasies there
Oh
Oh,
my gosh.
that they were bringing in whiskey from Canada to the speakeasies. Who knew?
Yeah.
And then, like, he was connecting me with other people who wrote a whole book about this.
Oh
So
my
that's
god.
another part of the program we're trying to do, is the history of Morristown. But this is stuff like you have no idea about.
right.
None. And then he was another thing is, you know where the visiting bleachers are. So where Early Street is now, or where, yeah, was not the original Early Street. The original Early Street ran, if you look at the Timothy Mills house, which is by student parking now, okay,
Mhm.
ran to the right side of the Timothy Mills house, across where the visitor stands are for football, all the way to that was the original Early Street.
Oh.
Oh, I love the history. That's
You
Yeah,
super.
know,
it's
so
great
that's
stuff.
why Bob is like my adopted uncle. You know, I call Bob, and we sit on
I
the phone. A 10-minute conversation turns into and a couple of months ago we went and saw Bob. I introduced my brother to Bob, and I'm like, he is just a plethora of information. And he tells me, I'm getting older, I want to share all this information, because he knows if he doesn't tell the stories, they're gonna disappear.
and another one that wants to tell him above everything else loves Morristown.
He loves
Yeah.
Right,
Morristown.
right, that whole. But two things I wanted to add. Some of the things that we were talking about a little earlier. First of all, in terms of the high school, I think we talked about this. We'd love to do almost a tour
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
do that, because that would be kind of a neat episode to do, almost like documentary
Mm-hmm.
fashion, to be able to walk people through. And then
Yeah.
the second thing about the nation that also occurred to me is, I never belonged to a fraternity. I've had my nephew went to Syracuse, big into fraternities. A lot of people do. And I remember asking somebody, with the craziness that happens, why would you want to be part of a fraternity? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that resonated with me, and somebody said, is at the end of the day, through all the shenanigans, you go through that with somebody in college, and when you all go on to the workforce, you've now become brothers and sisters to each other, fraternity sororities, right? The nation, to me, kind of parallels that, because from a networking perspective and having that connection, to me, it's like, you're trying to make a connection with somebody. Maybe you're trying to get into the job market. Maybe you're looking for somebody to mentor you. Maybe you're trying to get a connection for whatever. It's neat to have a resource like the nation, with what you guys have built, right? I know I'm not telling anything you already didn't know, but the more I think about it, the more it becomes even bigger to kind of wrap your arms around. And that's why I think it still tickles my fancy, if you will, the fact that we're talking about a high school and
Mm.
not a college, where
Well,
you expect that sort of thing. I think I just got goosebumps just saying that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the other thing that I was thinking about, that I'm like, that is just it's just awesome. I mean, as my
yeah.
brother said, just on this show, the connections we made with people, not that we necessarily don't know. I mean, like I said, I was, I knew Jared. I was in the same class with Larry, and so when we met you, it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. You
It's
can't
crazy.
get away from the 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
And anyway, so
No, it's really true. And I appreciate so much the point you're making about it being such a different thing, high school versus college alumni, like making those connections. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really a testament to Morristown. It's like if any high school, if any school district can be successful in building a nation of people who want to stay connected, it's us. And
Mhm.
we're trying to kind of, like I said, harness the power of that and do something cool and different, and
Mhm.
just find a way to connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So guys, there's going to be more about this
Yeah.
out there as we start collaborating and putting different things together. Of course, right now, as the school year is starting to wrap up now, so it's going to end before you know it's going to. But I'm sure as we go into the 2024-2025 school year, you'll see
Yeah.
a lot more announcements being made on some of the collaborations and events that we'll be putting on together.
We're
With
really
that,
looking forward to it. It's going to be so cool.
It's
I could
awesome.
just so
yeah,
many things we can
Right.
do.
100%. So let us now. We're starting to push up against our time right now, but I'm going to transition into, because I would love to hear these answers to our 5 simple questions. So, Jian, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, let's do it.
So, growing up in high school, okay, or growing up, doesn't have to be in high school. What was your first concert?
Oh, my
Oh,
first
good
concert was
one.
Beyonce, actually.
Yeah.
That was her Beyonce tour. I did
Okay.
that in 9th grade.
Ninth
Wow.
grade. So we're talking like 2011, 2012.
Yes, yeah,
Wow.
2012.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Where did you see her?
Like the Izod Center is that
Uh,
what it was in New Jersey?
Yeah, yeah.
okay. Yeah. I turned
Wow.
40 in 2012. Anyway, how about you, Deb?
John Bon Jovi.
Of course.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
That is so cool.
Yeah. John Bon Jovi. I was in 9th grade and I went with a bunch of upperclassmen who drove there.
Ooh, that was a big thing, right?
Yeah. And I think it was the Meadowlands. I
Probably the
feel like
Meadowlands, yeah.
he sat behind the stage. I
Yeah.
was so happy to be there. So
It
yeah.
was,
Did
but
you
remember,
see?
those were. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you see, by the way, Deb, that he needs to have surgery on his
Oh,
Vocal
vocal
cord.
cords?
he does.
Because
Well,
if
he's
you
saying
heard
that.
him
Did you
when
see
he did,
his documentary? Have you? Go ahead, sorry.
no, I was gonna say, because if you heard him like during COVID when everybody was doing the charity stuff, you're like, ooh, he's gotten a little a little rough. But yeah, I saw somewhere that he needs to have
Yeah,
surgery
he
or
doesn't
whatever.
think he's going to be able to sing again. So,
But the cool thing about him is, and somebody pointed it out, somebody took a picture of him with one of the charity stuff that he does. He was washing dishes, and somebody posted, because that's what rock stars from Jersey do.
yeah.
That's right.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't interrupt.
I think he has a new documentary that's supposed to be really, I mean, amazing. I
Yeah.
feel like it's his documentary that someone just told me about. But yeah, no, he's
Yeah. Yeah, you're
Wow.
right, because he talked about his relationship with Richie,
yeah,
and he goes into that on why they're no longer as close as they used to be.
really down. He's like a real person. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
By the way, Gian, back then tickets to concerts were like $25.
Oh, I
Uh,
believe it. Don't rub it in. Don't rub it in.
Talking about concerts, there's a report today that said Americans are flying to Europe to go see Taylor Swift because they
I'm
can
doing
get.
that. Yep.
Are you really?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
tickets in Paris are $300 compared to $2,600 in the United
Really?
States.
Yeah, my Switzerland ticket was $120.
Yeah.
Do they not have do they not have to use Ticketmaster there? I mean, they're the real vultures.
No, I don't know. You're right about that. No, it's what do you call it again? Something Nation, whatever it is. Not
Live
Colonial
Nation?
What? No, whatever it is. But
Interesting.
yeah. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked now. Okay. So Beyonce and Bon Jovi. Okay. Did you guys go off campus to eat, Deb?
Yeah. When I went, I was one of the years where they changed the off-campus rule for lunch, and you could only start to go if you were a senior. So where my brothers went all their years, my year was only senior year. But yeah, definitely went off campus.
Yeah. Suvio's?
Well, Suvio's was always so crowded. So we used to go to Suvio's, but I also used to go to Lovey's. We used to hop in the car and like
Lovey's,
drive.
okay, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then also like just into town too. There was like the old when I was in high school, the headquarters plaza had like some restaurants in there. There was like a Ben
Yeah.
and Jerry's. There was a Mexican taco place, and we used to like.
They had a whole food court in there.
Oh yeah, we used to hit the food court
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, we used to drive. We used to go take a drive to Burger King every once in a while.
TBT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
Burger King. Rest in peace.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that
What about-
whole section there is weird now.
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
Burger
Different
King
now.
was.
How
Sorry,
about you,
go ahead.
John? What would you
I
do?
always would walk to Masago because that's so close and half off with cash. In fact, I even just got Masago tonight. So old habits die hard. So I still do that now.
Is last time I checked, John's Deli was still there. Is that still there?
Oh, I don't know.
You know, it's right across from Skylar.
Well, next time you fly in, we'll go check it out.
I'm just.
You know that whole area.
I don't live there. I thought it was asked the people that live
John's
there.
Hall. Yeah, I know exactly where it is. It's.
Yeah.
I think it is still there.
It's still there. It's still there.
Okay.
He's craving a sandwich. That's the problem.
Yeah. Every time we have these conversations, I'm like, well, you guys, let me see if I can ask you about something.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Anyway.
But you got the funny thing is, you know, growing up, you know, we were down when you walk down Washington Street, you know, there used to be a McDonald's there.
Yeah.
You know, the triplex there, you know. You know. Now that all that is a faded memory now. So okay. So back to you, Deb. Favorite teachers?
I think one of my favorite teachers was my Mr. Wallerstein in broadcasting, because he really gave me that chance with Colonial Corner, and that was kind of pivotal for me, and really fun and cool. So I really appreciated that. I mean, I would say probably him. Was it Mr. Furphy for
Spanish.
Spanish. Just really, you know, I'm just trying to. Sometimes I'm like, who remember your teachers?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. You're asking me that question, but those are two people that just kind of popped into my mind.
Yeah.
Didn't Furphy also coach soccer?
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. Okay, that's what
Furphy
I thought.
was the Morristown version of what's his name, Magnum PI, with that mustache of his.
And Mr. Harris for chemistry, like. Yeah. I don't know. So
nutty professor.
Nutty professor.
Yeah. We've heard who I loved as well, even though I didn't have him directly, is Mr. Butler.
Yeah, I had Mr. Butler.
You did?
Yeah.
That's
it must be a different Mr. Butler then, actually. I think.
I don't know when he
which
passed
Mr. Butler
away.
are you talking about, Jian?
You're talking about Mike Butler, right?
Yeah, Michael Butler came in much later. Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
You know, we had I'm going to tell a funny story real quick. Was that your only teacher, Mr. Butler? Is that the only one, Jian?
Oh, no, my favorite teacher, I would say actually it was in Frelinghuysen. It was Mr. Heisroth, 8th grade English. If you know, you know. It was a really great time. He just like really inspired us to care about school. And so it was,
nice.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Best.
Nice.
So if we're including Frelinghuysen, Mr. Sateric was my absolute favorite teacher.
So we always ask this, Deb, and John, I'll ask you too. What section were you in?
I was
Frelinghuysen, like houses. Yeah, house 1, air conditioning, bigger lockers. That was the move.
Yeah,
house 1. What happened to Frelinghuysen that I lost that memo?
It was section
house
1, basically.
Yeah,
section
house
1.
Of the Phoenix.
So, yeah. You had name is what is Hogwarts?
Yeah,
when
there's
did this
Phoenix,
happen?
dragons, tigers.
What?
It's a whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's
Deb,
funny.
if you had Sateric, then you were probably an 8-1 as well.
Yeah.
If you recall, right? What about 7th grade?
Favorite teacher or?
Oh, what section were you in?
Oh, I feel like I want to say 7 too, because I don't know. But he's a striker.
Yeah.
It's funny
you're not the only one who mentioned her.
Really?
We always say that there's a bunch of teachers, about a dozen of them, that transcend.
Yes.
And like we had when we had Bob Ginter on, he's class of 70. He's talking about one of his favorite teachers was Mr. Frendak.
Mm.
And then we had Jill on, and she's like, Mr. Frendak. So here
Yeah,
you're
it was
talking about
crazy.
a 30-year span with their favorite teacher. So that just goes to tell you the quality of teachers that they were, if they can
Yeah.
transcend generations like that. I
Wha-
think that's just amazing.
One of the
Great
when you
point.
talk about history and favorite teachers, one of the ones that we were talking about, my favorite subject still is history. I had
Mhm,
Mr. Dempsey,
Mm.
mhm.
who also was part of the Acorn and so forth. And who was it that told us about maybe reaching out to his daughter to have her on? But he was
Yeah.
just he. If you didn't like history, and I think Gamka was another one when it comes to
Mm.
physics,
Mhm,
and there's so many different ones. I'm sure, Jonna, you had the same kind of experience where if you went into it not liking it or not sure, you would show up to that class just to see the antics, and you didn't
Mm.
realize walking out of it that you actually absorbed all that. And I say that all the time. I say it in the
mhm,
corporate world too, because how often have you worked for somebody in the corporate world that is your mentor or just somebody that you're like, you know what, if I get to your position, especially if you're starting, I want to be like that. I
Yeah.
think that's the thing about teachers and even then college and professors, that
Mhm,
you feel the same way, where it's like, oh, that is
mhm,
just, and so like my brother said, it's interesting to hear some of the common ones, and I think we would agree with all of them, even if we didn't
mhm.
have them, being
Yeah.
exposed to them, going, oh yeah, I could see why that shows up.
Yeah.
That's
Real quick, in our last episode that we did, if you guys haven't seen it, it's we did it with Eric Phillips. He graduated in '90, and now he's on the news anchor on down for ABC down in Virginia. Um, and he was talking about Mr. Walters because he loved to sing in the choir. And the story I forgot to tell him is, after we graduated, my mother moved to Randolph, and so my mother was involved in, in local in the town she participated. And if you know my mother loves to throw parties. So my mother threw a party, and like the town council with it and all these other members showed up. And all of a sudden, through the door, who walks in? It's Mr. Walters walks in with his wife. And it's almost like, when you're out. Now, here's like years later after graduating. And when you were a kid and you're out grocery shopping with your parents and you ran into your teacher in the supermarket, and it's kind of like, what are you doing here? Like, you're not supposed to be out in public. I feel 6 years old again. Now, I never had the man. I know who he was, but it's like almost like you're kind of intruding in my space now. It's 30 years later, but hey, nice to meet you.
Oh my God.
It's just kind of funny how you just go right back to that, and you're like, oh my God, like, it was just weird. But anyways, moving forward. Um, so Gian, on the weekends, it's not basketball season. Friday night, Saturday night, where would we find you?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. My friends and I growing up probably would go to like the Livingston Mall.
Sure.
a
That was
Livingston Mall.
Livingston
Wow.
Mall. That was always a good time.
Yeah.
We've mentioned Headquarters Plaza already.
Sure.
We'd always, scour about those halls. So I would say
Hmm.
those two places.
Yeah. How about you, Deb?
Yeah, I was gonna say like the movie theater. Do you remember the movie theater where the Morris County Mall was on the end there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure do.
It's no longer there now. It's like whatever. There's a Walmart there or whatever.
Yeah.
But we used to go to that. I feel like I probably hit that movie theater like on a Friday or
Sure.
Saturday night.
Sure. I remember in when was it? 83, when Return of the Jedi came out, the lines would be down towards
Yes.
it was Bradley's at the time.
Yeah.
And and it would go all the way down to Bradley's past where
Yes.
McDonald's, and they actually just redid that McDonald's. FYI, fun fact. And to where Genevieve's Drugs was. You remember
Yes.
Genevieve's Drugs?
Yes.
So it was, to the ground round.
That's
Oh
funny
Um
because
gosh.
because that's another one of the malls. We talk about Rockaway,
mhm.
Livingston, obviously that we went. I remember the Orange Julius and Nathan's at the Livingston Mall.
Oh
Yeah.
sure,
Um,
yeah.
and but that was another one down there. I'm still a big bookworm. Happy Booker. And then there
Yes.
was the what was the name of the place? The computer place in there that for a
A
short time I was
village
good.
commuters.
Yes, I was good
Yeah.
friends with Tom Lemoncelli.
Mm-hmm.
Lemoncelli worked there for a while, back when the computer you bought was like the Amiga,
Mm-hmm.
and then the arcade.
Yeah,
And it
the
was
arcade,
like, and
I
then
was
it's
just
like,
gonna say that.
Yeah.
We would
And-
we would totally do that.
Yeah.
it's crazy that you
Yeah.
kind
Man,
of,
like
you know,
that-
now,
That Morris County Mall, that mall that like where the Walmart is now, like that was a mall.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
yeah.
There were
Yeah.
stores. You walk down
Yeah.
it was a small little like one leg of a mall,
Yeah.
but like you could go there. And it's so funny because that was like, okay, you go to Morris County Mall, and then it's like you could really, it'd be like Livingston Mall, and then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
if someone, then it was like Rockaway was like the place if you really wanted to venture out
Yeah.
and spend
I
the whole
thought-
day.
I think it's cool, and maybe we chatted about it when we spoke prior to recording this, but they're redoing Headquarters Plaza.
Yeah.
Because that was one of those where it's like those became the big movie theaters right in town.
Yes.
You had
Mhm.
after Triplex, and then
Community theater. Yeah.
the community. Well, I still call it the community theater.
Yeah.
And then they opened that up, and it became AMC. Right now,
Yeah.
apparently, with like everything else, they're completely revitalizing it, which is good because it seemed like it became a little bit of a ghost town for a
Mhm.
while. So
Yeah.
anyhow, looking forward to seeing what happens there.
Well, you know,
Gian, we have
sorry.
photos for Gian to
Yeah,
that's
I'm
kinda-
very curious.
that's the kind of for her to bring her up to speed on this. There's photos out there that
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah, walk
I
me
was just
down.
gonna say
That's funny.
about like bringing back Morristown. I had some of my colleagues from work come out. Like I have people who work with me from around the country, and they came out to Morristown, did like a little staff retreat, and
Mhm.
I was so proud, guys. Like they like came out. They were staying at the Hyatt, and they came out. We took them to
Mhm.
dinner. We were walking through Morristown just like last
Yeah.
Wednesday night. I felt like it was so vibrant. I felt
Yeah.
so proud, that this
Yeah.
was my hometown. So just to the point of
100%.
realizing it, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
Gian, just to bring you up to speed on this, back in the 90s, Morristown was desolate. A lot of stores shut down. Half of the stores that you see on South Street or around the Green closed, and they were closed for about 5 or 6 years. So what happened, all these businesses ended up leaving for economic reasons, and it took a lot for them to come back to us. So in retrospect, and it wasn't like that in the 70s and 80s, it was always busy. Everybody was around town. But now to see it the way it is, it's really made a strong comeback, and to bring life back into the town.
We have an incredible hospital. We have an incredible
Yeah.
performing arts center, and we have incredible schools, great restaurants. Like it's really, it's amazing.
Yeah. So my final question for this 5 simple questions, and I asked this question of our last guest that we just put on, and it was the question was, it was just on a whim, and I need to ask it of you guys. So I'll start with you, Jian.
Phew.
Let's hear it.
So what would 2024 Jian, if she had an opportunity to go back in time and to write a note to 2016 Jian, the night before high school graduation, what would the note say?
That's a really great question.
I know.
I would say,
Wow.
like, give everyone a big old hug, and stay connected. I know that's been our main theme today, but it's the
Mhm.
truth. I think, especially I would say like right at the beginning of graduating high school or graduating college, people just do their own thing, right? And
Mhm.
they'll forget that like that person in AP Bio, you couldn't have existed without them, right? Like you couldn't
Mhm.
have made that day without them. But then as soon as you get into your new world, your new life, you're
Mhm.
thinking, oh, is Allie, are we still friends? Like, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like,
Sure.
like, is it okay for me to reach out now? No, like I would write myself and just say, stay connected, keep your friends in your pocket. Like everybody
Mhm.
wants to find a reason to connect. And so
Mhm.
we'll always find our way back to Morristown in some way. It doesn't have to be physically, but in the connections that we've made. And so just don't be
Mhm.
shy about that. Like really
Mhm.
don't forget your roots and take pride in the connections you've made over time.
Yeah. Excellent. What
Love
about you,
it.
Deb?
If I were to put a note in my 1989 self the day before
Yeah.
graduation,
Yeah.
um, I might put a note in the pocket that said, you're better prepared than you think. I think, I don't think I knew then how much I think I was much more nervous. That's it really. You're better prepared than you
I
think.
get it. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We always, it's one of those things that, we always doubt ourselves. And the best
Right.
teachers I found, whether you're in high school or in college, are those that see in you what you don't see in yourself. And those are the ones who push you the hardest.
Yeah.
And those are the teachers that you always remember
Mm-hmm.
because they gave you that push when you didn't have the push to give yourself. And that's what makes good teachers amazing teachers. The funny thing is, we talk, John, what you're talking about is you see somebody after graduation and you see that. And I've seen this a few times. And, you go away, college starts and it's, sometimes around October or so, you start seeing, it's whatever, kids come back for the weekend and they're all wearing their college t-shirts, and they're proud, whatever the college says, and they meet their old buddies from high school. And when they, everybody's wearing their, they meet up at a restaurant, whatever. And for the first half hour where they meet, your identity is what your shirt says. But then you get reacclimated with your old friends. It doesn't matter what your shirt says anymore. Because within that time that you're back with your friends, it could be 6 months since you left high school. It could be 6 years. It could be 20 years. You're back transformed to back then when you were growing up with them. Because what I've learned in life, the friends you make in high school when you're younger, to what you're saying, Jian, you maintain those relationships. Those will be your strongest relationship throughout your lives. That's why you see, guys who've had friends, they say, we've been friends since kindergarten or, elementary school. And here you are 30, 40 years later. Now their kids are playing with each other's kids now. And, so Jimmy and Bob were best friends. And now it's Uncle Bob and Uncle Jimmy to their own kids because, those are the strongest relationship. And I think that at the end of the day, when you look at Morristown, that's what makes Morristown great. Because it doesn't matter, you can live a million miles away and come back and meet up with your old friends. And you're able to live back those memories. And I'm not one to say live back to live in the past. But at least the people there understand who you are. You don't have to put on a facade. They know who you are. You know who they are. And you can just be yourselves.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, and I'm already starting to see it. Like you said, right? You'll have your college friends, your colleagues, but there's something about the folks from your hometown. You don't have to share the pretenses, right? They know the full context, and that's what's so wonderful about it.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, when those friends, you have a get together, and there's always that one or two parent that everybody loves, and they show up and they can, the first thing, they don't necessarily ask how you're doing. They ask how your mom is doing or how's your dad doing, and then mom shows up and then the party is over because nobody cares about you. They want to talk to your mom, So, but
that's what happens to Debbie and her kids, I think.
I think so too. But
actually, my mom is like a legendary Morris school district.
That's right. You have.
Yeah.
Everybody knew my mom. Everyone asked about my mom. And I was laughing earlier telling the story about when you ran into Mr. Walters. I'm thinking about all the times I would walk in town with my mom and everyone was like, Mrs. And one time I was walking through Epstein's, it was Easter, and like we're walking through the downstairs level and the Easter bunny is walking to us. And literally, I'm not kidding, lifts up the paw. I was like, hi, Mrs. Ryan. I'm like, Mom, even the Easter bunny.
That's funny.
Like,
That's
she
funny.
knew and I still get that. I mean, there's so many people who,
But you know what? I bet you as a kid it embarrassed you, but now in retrospect,
so proud.
Exactly.
So proud. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, to know that like your mom was someone who like impact. I mean, we just did her retirement. People were like sending videos. I love like telling them they loved her as a teacher. Like anyway, so I
No,
appreciate
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That really is awesome, you know. So listen, guys, we're just about out of time here, but thanks for coming on.
Thanks for
Yeah, thanks for
The
having
two
us.
of us are looking forward to our future collaboration together. We're confident that we will bring great things together, um, not only to each other's organization, but also to the alumni who we serve, for
Yes,
lack
I
of a better
love
word.
that. Peter, that was so well said.
Thank you. Thank
And that
you.
we're a part of, not just serve.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
More better.
Thanks, Party Pooper.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you very much, guys.
But
Really
listen, guys, we
appreciate it.
really appreciate you taking the time. Um, so until next time for Beyond the Green, I am Peter. This is Terry. And for Morristown Colonial Nation, this is Debbie. That's Jian. Thanks for watching, folks. Until next time, be good to each other, and we'll see you soon.